Well, TRT World's editor-at-large Ahmed Al-Barai here in the studio with us. Ahmed, hi. So what did you make of these comments, especially, let's stay on France there?
It's very clear, the stances coming out from the president. So it says clearly that Turkey is not going to back down on the operation they're going to take away with the YPG elements. Turkey is deeply frustrated, according to President Erdogan, of France, which hosts a number of terrorists. Instead, the president is asking them to host more Syrian refugees who are being, exposed to many of the atrocities by the regime and even by the YPG. Doesn't make any sense for Turkey to have any kind of mediation, dialogue, or any kind of talk with the YPG, because Turkey is a state, a member of the NATO, while the YPG is the same face of the PKK outlawed group that is recognized by the United States and France itself and the European Union as a terrorist organization. So how come for Turkey that you're asking me to sit on the same table with these people, and for what sake? If your aim is to clear the region from Daesh and to prevent any kind of another rise of the terrorist group, then Turkey is ready, and it's already on the ground with its, the mighty forces on the ground defeating all the terrorist groups. So why are you still interested in the YPG? That's the clear message that President Erdogan is sending not only to France, but also to
Why do you think, though? Has it taken you by surprise, these comments by Macron taking this stance?
Well, to be honest, in the Middle East, there is nothing can surprise you. The fluidity of what's going on. At night, you may have a statement from Donald Trump speaking about the withdrawal from the Middle East. Then you have another one speaking about reinforcement, and like Rex Tillerson used to say, that we're going to keep our military hardware on the ground and we're going to reinforce it. Then Rex Tillerson overnight was just kicked off of the administration. Now you have the defense minister speaking about it as well. So Macron was, by a way or another, he found himself in a place where there is a vacuum. They cannot leave Syria just for the Russians, and that's why he thinks that by this he's going to, develop his relations with the YPG. But it's very interesting to keep in mind that Holland, the former president, criticized him in domestic policy that he's abandoning their ally, the YPG. France, the same as the United States. Let's not forget that they're training, they're giving them, supplying them with weapons. The only thing that they hesitate is to send their troops there. But they're going to continue with this because they say SDF is different from PKK, which is not clear. Anybody who has common sense would think that if you look at the images you have inside Syria of Abdullah Öcalan, the founder of the PKK, it's way more than Ataturk images in Turkey. So how come that you want to tell anybody, to convince anybody that the YPG is not the extension of the PKK terrorist organization that killed thousands of Turks? Turkey cannot back down again. They will go on with the operation, whether...
In that sense, France also didn't want Turkey to continue its operation into Manbij, but from Erdogan's speech, they said the area 90% is Arab, so the PYD or YPG have no place there. So why is France persistent in supporting the YPG and this operation not continuing to Manbij?
That's the crux of the whole issue. Now, the YPG, if we accept that it's fighting Daesh, now, if you look at the practices after the defeat of Daesh, they're still displacing Arabs. The majority of the Manbij city are Arabs. The majority of Tel Rifat are Arabs. Even half of the population of Afrin itself are Arabs. So why are you still not allowing them to go back? Now, if you think of the same side, if you look at the other side, you will think of Turkey is allowing the people to go back to Afrin. So Turkey is giving a clear example that we do not have any ambitions in anybody's soil, and we're not going to stay in Syria. It's only we're going to protect our border, clear it from the terrorist organization, and then empower the councils. Many, as we've listened to Hassan Abdullah from Ankara, many promises were struck by the Obama administration, and even by Tillerson and the Trump administration that they're going to withdraw them to the east of the Euphrates River. This was not happening. They also promised to empower more the local councils and the Arabs, even in the SDF and the YPG. This is not happening. They promised to disarm after the group after the defeat of Daesh, and this is not happening. So you leave Turkey for no other option but to take things unilaterally.
Well, Tillerson's visit was seen as highly important, but now that it's sacked, that's another question there. But let's listen into what Donald Trump had to say last night on Syria.
We spent, and I was against it from the beginning. They try and say, well, maybe not. I was against it from the beginning. And by the way, we're knocking the hell out of ISIS. We'll be coming out of Syria like very soon. Let the other people take care of it now. Very soon. Very soon we're coming out. We're going to have 100% of the caliphate, as they call it, sometimes referred to as land. We're taking it all back quickly. But we're going to be coming out of there real soon. Going to get back to our country, where we belong, where we want to be.
So does this take you by surprise?
Trump is the man, the boss of surprises, you know, like what's happening of the inconsistency of the strategy in the Middle East. At the time Tillerson was here, we have a different strategy. Now it's completely different. We know that Trump is interested in the oil of the east of the Euphrates River. You have the richest territory of oil fields in there. You also have more than 6 military bases in the east of the Euphrates River. Is he serious about this? I do have doubts, and still what supports what I'm going to think about is what coming out from the Pentagon, from the other establishment, from the United States, that they say this is not feasible at the moment. We're not sure how this is going to play out. It reminds me with what happened in December when Putin decided to withdraw from Syria, and what we have is more enforcement of their operations on the ground, what's happening in Ghouta. So in the past few days, we've been speaking about a possible strike of the United States forces against the Assad regime. That's what the Sputnik think tank of Russia is speaking about. The Russian officials are speaking about. They were warning of an immediate, imminent strike of the United States to the Assad regime. Now he's coming and saying we withdraw. I don't think this is feasible. There's no clear strategy, but there's no surprise because we're living a kind of uncertainty, and that makes any analyst in a state of confusion to estimate, to foresee what's going to happen, especially with a president like Donald Trump, who changes his mind in a day more than, you know, he tweets.
Well, Tillerson's visit was seen as to reduce tension between Turkey and the US. So now, how do you see this going forward, especially about Manbij? From Erdogan's speech, what we take, this operation will continue. So can they put their differences aside, do you think?
At the time of Tillerson, he was supposed to meet with Çavuşoğlu on the 19th of March last month. And everybody was optimistic that they're going to speak about a kind of, a compromise. They're going to reduce the number of the YPG from the SDF. They're going to alienate the PKK elements, kick them out, empower more the Arabs in the SDF. There were a kind of communication channels between the two partners. But with the Tillerson departure, things changed dramatically. Now you don't know whether they're going to agree or not. For Tel Rifat, it could be possible with the Russians. But for the Manbij, it's either the United States withdraw with a kind of a reconciliation with Turkey, like we're going to have an American presence, but without any presence of the YPG, then you have a kind of mutual agreement that the local councils will be empowered. There is a presence for the strategic importance of the city for the United States, but Turkey cannot by any means allow the presence of the YPG in Manbij because it's very essential in terms of Turkey. They will never back down on this issue.
Well, thank you very much for that, Ahmed Albright, for that insight. We'll have more on this with you here in the studio.